Hello, construction people. Mike Weissar here. Welcome to Consultants in Carhartts, drinking coffee number 9. All right, we're gonna have a little fun today. I promised myself I'd get this out before the end of the week, and now it's Friday afternoon, so here we go. This one is gonna be our first look at just specifically lean philosophy. Now remember, back at Genie Industries, way back in the day when we started, our lean transformation happened 100% from philosophy. So we didn't have any tools, they didn't teach us any tools. It was all in the way that we did our work. The interesting thing about philosophy is this. Philosophy is not the search for fact, it's the search for truth. And in lean, that philosophy is the search for fact. All right, there you go. Get yourself in that loop, you'll never get out. Anyway, Genchi Genbutsu is the #1 lean philosophy. When that guy came from Honda, the first thing he did when he walked in is came out to the factory floor. 3 minutes after that, I've told you guys the story how I learned about the difference between value-added and non-value-added when he said, looking out over my people, only 2 of them are turning a wrench. That was minutes after I met him on the shop floor, and the guy never did go to his office. He never did set up his office with family photos, plants, anything. He never even set up his office. I can remember having maybe 2 meetings in there the entire time we worked together. Genchi Genbutsu is absolutely the most fundamental component of lean, absolutely far and away. And I can prove it. I sent you a podcast a while back on the NUMMI partnership between Toyota and General Motors back in 1986. And so General Motors had that plant right in California, you guys remember. Worst manufacturing plant in the country and probably in the world. Drugs, prostitution, alcohol, building the cars wrong on purpose because manufacturing hated management, and on, right? All the bad stories. And Toyota sends over 200 managers working with the same people in the same buildings with the same equipment, all the same materials, and in 90 days is producing cars at 100% the quality of Toyota and 85% of their efficiency in 90 days. Now let me ask you a question. What do you guys think? You think those managers came to General Motors, came to that plant in California and went to their offices and hung out? Did office manager things and went to meetings? Or do you think they went out to the factory floor? And I think you guys already know the answer to that. That's how profound Genchi Genbutsu is. And I'll give you an example for construction. I went out to a job site a while back, and if you're just on the job site every day, it is incredible what you learn. But this one was, just one that we can all relate to, I think. Superintendent is frustrated. He's got a list of items on his task list. The people reporting to him haven't taken care of those items. And he's mad. He just looks at me and he says, Dad, burn it. These guys haven't done what they're supposed to be doing. I'm going to go out and do it myself. And I said, hang on. How about, let's try something else, right? Let's have all those guys come on over here. So he calls them all. They all come over. He explains what's going on, right? And he and I talked about this a bit ahead of time, calmed down and just discussed it. And he says, look, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like you guys to address these items on the list by noon. Now let's all meet back here at noon and get those items addressed. If you're struggling with time or a solution, give me a call. I'll run out and give you a hand. Mike's here, he'll give you a hand. So we did, got it done. Then at noon, they all came back. Turned out it wasn't that big a deal. And then from noon to 4 o'clock, we said, okay, at 4 o'clock, we want these items done on the list. And then that worked. And then we kept doing that for a few days, and pretty soon it became habit for both him and his team. Now that couldn't have happened without me being there, Genchi Genbutsu, right? And if you're there, you're gonna see that or something like that, and then you'll see something else, and then you'll see something else, and in a few weeks you step back and you realize, oh, I'm personally having a huge effect on this job, right? I'm personally having a huge effect, but the huge effect I'm having is by helping my people, right? Genchi Genbutsu allows us to go out, see the process. We're kind of stepping back, right? We're in a little different position than the guys running it all day, every day. We're stepping back a bit, we're getting a look at it, and we can have profound effect. Okay, next one. Without standards, there can be no improvement. So that's Taiichi Ohno's most famous quote. Without standards, there can be no improvement. Just think about that one for a second. If we work on a little improvement project together, which is lean, right? We just do that constantly. We're working on these improvement projects. And if every one of them, when we get done, everybody on the team can go, yeah, I see what you're saying, but I don't want to. I don't like doing things like that. We're like, no, this is a reliable method, right? If these steps are done in earnest in this order, we will get this reliable outcome. We can guarantee it. It's just the way, that's what these add up to, as long as they're done correctly. And they go, no, I don't want to. So you start to realize very quickly, oh yeah, without standards and our ability to follow them, there's no way we can improve, then improve on that, then improve on that. In other words, we can't get any of that trajectory going. Toyota figured that out right away, back in the early 1940s, right? And so as they did, one of the reasons that they've beat so much of the rest of the world, or at least in their words, is that they just continued. They stress that they believe the reason that they're in a position that's so much different than the rest of the world is because they just simply took all of the philosophies that we taught them or we believe in, and they just stuck with them and continued forever, right? It just kept building. Okay, and then there's effort versus execution. That's the next one. And once you learn effort versus execution, you start to realize, that's a cultural change. Again, a philosophical change. And here's why I say this is a management thing. It doesn't have to do with your people. It has to do with management, because what we allow, we teach. What we allow, we teach. So when I ask somebody to, hey, get a hold of this supplier, ask them this, get this taken care of, order that, whatever, and they come back the next morning and say, oh, okay, how'd that go? And they go, well, I contacted them and left them a message. They never got back to me. Well, that's effort. So I remember early on, like within the first few days of that guy from Honda coming to work with us, and I know I've told you guys this story before, but he said straight out, our suppliers have 30 minutes to get back to us. They are in our employ. We're not asking them to do that. We're telling them that's a requirement of getting to be a supplier for us. If they don't, I'll call the owner of the company. So you just let me know. I'll call the owner of the company and I will get the problem solved. And by God, he made a couple phone calls. It had to happen a couple of times. And by God, he was right. It solved it. So the change was in management. Now for him, it was natural. He was just, he'd only ever lived that way. He'd never lived the way we were. But the way we were living was, if I put in an effort, my boss, always, the whole time I ever worked at that company, my boss would go, oh, okay, well, call him again, or something, yell, try yelling. Manufacturing, right? Should be versus what is, right? Should be versus what is. So on the job, you will hear over and over, if you're practicing Genchi Genbutsu, you will hear your superintendent, your project manager, the other people reporting to them that own all the swim lanes on your last planner scheduling and 6-week look ahead. All those people you'll hear come out of their mouth a lot. Should be. That guy should have known that. That guy should have done that. He should have known better. He's a journeyman. And you hear that a lot. And my reply to them would be, no, he shouldn't have known that. And you say, well, he's been doing this for 20 years. He should have. And I said, no, hang on. You want to know why I know he shouldn't have known that? Well, why? Because he didn't do it. Just plain and simple. And they'd look at me like, you pulling that philosophy stuff on us again? Okay, fair enough. But point is, when that happens, we have to step back and ask ourselves the question, what in our process broke down so that he didn't understand that? Because if he understood it, he knew how to do it. It's not that we have to, being a journeyman carpenter doesn't mean we have to teach him how to build things. But if we need it built within a certain parameter, in a certain order, with some certain outcome, then they need to understand that, right? And that is key. And oftentimes in the morning, we'll see when people finally get to, right? You go through lots of lean implementation, but you eventually start to get to trade optimization, right? So trade optimization is way beyond last planner scheduling, 6-week look ahead, task list, issues log, OAC, all the other things that we do to get things going in order. Then we start going down for trade optimization, which is, okay, I've got 200 rooms to do the same. I'm getting a progress of about 2 rooms per day. I'm going to do a little lean. Now I can get 8 rooms per day with the same number of people. Trade optimization, right? But then you've got daily management. So daily management is beyond trade optimization. Daily management says, okay, before we start working today, our foreman's going to stand there with us with our drawings, and we're all going to talk about what work we're doing. Takes 20 minutes, guys. That's all it takes. That's all we ever allot for it. Takes 20 minutes, and here's what it ends, is going out on the job site. And again, if you're practicing Genchi Genbutsu, you'll be surprised how much you see this. You go out on the job site and you see a group of guys, no supervisor or anything, just a group of guys standing there with a drawing going, trying to figure out what to do. And that should scare the hell out of you when you see that. I know, I think maybe some people get comfort from that because they believe that drawing is going to get read correctly and all the right things are going to happen because they're looking at it. I can almost guarantee you the reason they're looking at it is they're going, none of this makes any sense. What the hell, let's just do this. Telling you, that's what's going on more often than not. All right? That's just from my personal experience. That's not data, but understand the difference between leadership and management. All right? Here's what I love in construction. Hey, if I talk to a superintendent, let's say, and in fact, a project manager on the issues log and the OAEC process, same thing. Talk with them and you say, look, 6 weeks out, we need to know where every single person on this job site is, even if there's 200 tradesmen out there. We need to know where every single person is today, and every 2 hours, we need to know if they're tracking to get the work done that they're supposed to accomplish today. So in 6 weeks, we need all you guys to be there, right? Just standard lean last planner scheduling 6-week look ahead stuff. Well, when people first hear that, they panic. Like, how the hell could I do that? I don't understand what that even means, right? And you're telling the superintendent he's got to tell his people to do that and go out and give them a vision, right? Give them something to shoot at that we're doing it anyway. But give them something to shoot at, give them that vision, then connect what we do each day to that vision so that they can begin to realize, oh, we are going to make that. Mike's going to help. He's going to train us. We're going to get better at it every day, and pretty soon we're going to be exactly there. And it really does only take 20 minutes 3 times a day to walk out and check my swim lane to see if everybody's tracking exactly where they're going to be tracking. And why in the hell would we do any of that anyway? We'll cover that in a minute. But back to our point here, which is understand the difference between leadership and philosophy. I have superintendents say to me all the time, or project managers, well, I don't want to, tell people what to do or how to do it or anything like that. And I go, for God's sake, this morning you were screaming at them, telling them what to do. You were throwing things against the wall, jumping up and down. You were 3 inches from the face. You were red, and you were yelling at them, telling them what to do. What do you mean you don't want to tell them what to do? And then you see the big toe in the sand thing. Well, I was mad then and all that. I get it. It's easier to be, strict with yourself, tough, disciplined when you're mad, or especially with other people, right? But if you're a little bit disciplined with yourself and you say, look, part of my job at least, I am a manager, but part of my job is leadership, right? My job is to give people a little bit of a vision, knowing exactly that we're going to get there, and then helping them take the steps, mentor them along that path until they get there. And then when we get there, everybody can say, oh God, look at that. We had a vision, we took the steps, we got the support we needed, we got corralled back into order when we got ourselves out of order, and we made it. We got there, right? So sure, a big part of our job is management. But as you move up the chain, more and more of your job is leadership. As you get way up high into vice president range and in the big C-suite, as you get into that area, you're looking at visions a year and a half, 2, 3 years out, right? And there's a very strategic way to go about doing that. We'll cover that one later. But point here, understand the difference between leadership and management. Okay, planning is done when we have the right plan, not when we run out of time. All right, so I've worked on jobs where we had to plan really significant parts of the job, but only with 4 or 5 trades, not with all the 30 or 40 trades that are in the meeting every morning, but 4 or 5 trades in this particular part and 4 or 5 trades in this particular part, but they're huge, right? These things are really affecting the outcome of the entire job. And so we'd have VPs, foremen, superintendents all at a meeting at 5 o'clock in the morning twice a week. That meant we were getting up at 3:30 in the morning to come to this job site twice a week so we could have the night shift there and the day shift there at the same time, create the plan, get it in detail, get the Post-its up, really struggle through all the ins and outs of making sure that it was robust, right? And it had huge income. We saved millions of dollars and got the job done months sooner by doing that. But my point again, that plan had to be done to get those outcomes. And during the day, we just simply weren't getting there. We didn't have the time to do it. Now, later on, we earned, through process improvement, the ability to have that extra time. But at that point, we didn't. And that's what it took, right? The plan is done when you have the right plan. Because when we were done planning at 5 o'clock in the morning, twice a week, right? We had the right plan, right? And then we had the ability to monitor it after that, right? So, Lean is monitoring progress rather than reporting on results. That's what they did at Toyota. Remember the line, you have that cord you'd pull if anything happened on the line that would stop the manufacturing line, and management and engineering would run out and they would fix it, get the line moving, and then go for root cause. You guys remember Toyota just-in-time production system, right? How do you replicate that on a job site? Well, you have to know where you're at, and that's that every 2 hours going out and checking. Now back out of that, how am I going to know where I'm at every 2 hours? Well, first we got to plan our Post-its, word them in a way that we understand where we're at every 2 hours. You can't say 10%, 20%, 30%, 40% on something. You have to say, I'm going to wire in room 102, 103, 104, right? Rough in, whatever. And it's got to be very specific. Okay? Then I can go out and check. But then to know where I'm at the first 2 hours means all the superintendents on my swim lanes, or all the people reporting to me, if I am the superintendent, know on their swim lanes where we started at 6 a.m. So at 8 a.m. when they go check, they know whether or not 2 hours got done. And again, we've covered this in the past, but the reason is because you have to be able to monitor progress. That's what Lean is. It doesn't report on results at the end of the day and we all go, really? It all just fell apart? And geez. Because if you know at 8 in the morning any particular part of your process is falling apart, you can adjust and save the day, right? But if you don't know till 4:30, the day's gone. Monitor progress, and it takes so much little time. Everybody always says, we're never going to have time to do that. Guys, it takes on average 17 minutes to take those walks every 2 hours. 17 minutes. I'm telling you for a fact, I've done hundreds of time studies on this. People will argue it. Don't let them argue. Hand them a time observation form and have them walk the process with you. It's 17 minutes. We take longer breaks than that. It's 17 minutes. Go out, monitor progress, right? The thing is, Lean is monitoring progress. Construction is reporting on results. And what we're trying to do is turn that reporting on results into monitoring progress, and it's going to be a big change for people. That's just a fact. So since that fact is that it's a big change, we focus on the process rather than the people, right? We're going to focus on the process. And that is the thing that helps us get through it, right? In other words, if something went wrong, it's right back to that whole should be thing. Well, instead of should being that poor guy who didn't know, let's focus on the process and find out how it is that our planning system didn't take that into account. And let's get that fixed so it doesn't happen to him again, right? It's the same thing here. We start looking at the entire construction site that way. And we take that into the offices in construction also. And then, the other one is lighten up and have fun, man. It's such big changes when you focus on the process. The other one, lighten up and have fun. Like I said, our guy from Honda, he would tease us to death, right? It'd drive you nuts. And he wasn't even that funny. He was just doing it to constantly lighten us up because these changes are so big. Everybody's so tense and struggling hard to try to move from one management philosophy to the other management philosophy. You got to lighten it up some and have a little fun with it. Your leadership's got to have that wisdom, right? Have a little bit of wisdom, knowing it's going to take my people a little time. I am going to I'm going to stretch them. I'm going to have these goals and visions. We are going to work towards them, but we're going to stumble a lot getting there. And as we do, we're going to laugh about it, adjust, get back on track, and go, right? And that's the wisdom of being in management. So on that have fun and lighten up, the last thing I had here, I thought fit was a quote from John Candy in the movie Canadian Bacon. There is a time for thinking and a time for action. And gentlemen, this is no time for thinking. All right. Okay, on that note, I'm going to wish you all a happy 4th of July. I'll catch up with you in the next week or two.